session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event.
We are about to begin the QB Power Hour webinar series. The QB Power Hour is a free bi-weekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at qbpowerhour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan.
Well, I just realized I need to update that intro because unfortunately, we don't have Michelle and Dan. We have Spot and Dan.
I can be Michelle. I'm okay with that.
Okay. But I will actually be seeing Michelle. She got selected. I don't know if you've been seeing that she got selected for the lottery of
Going to the Super Bowl again?
She is going to the Super Bowl. She got selected to actually because as season ticket holders, you get magically drawn. She never got drawn to buy Super Bowl tickets. She got selected this year, but she needed 3 tickets instead of 2. She found another pair and offered the second one to me. So I'm actually going to see Michelle at the Super Bowl because as we're driving across country, we would actually be by New Orleans during
Hold on, so
this
you just
weekend.
totally buried the lead there. Dan's going to the Super Bowl, everybody, is what that actually is. That was a nice way to stick that in. That is amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean it's face value, but it's a very big face for these tickets. And we were seriously debating if we actually wanted to do that. But I'm from the Philadelphia area, and we do like Kansas City, to my son's chagrin. So this is the this is the Super Bowl that we should be seeing, simply because we like both teams, and we're happy either way who wins. But we'll hearts with our home team. So I'll be wearing my Eagle stuff and sitting next to Michelle, which will be really cool to see her at the Super Bowl.
It's amazing.
So,
congrats.
So today we're going to be talking about some Intuit news and our Facebook group Q&A. So we're pleased to have you joining us here today on the QB Power Hour. My name is Dan DeLong, owner at Danwith and co-hosting today also the Workshop Wednesday that we do over at School of Bookkeeping as well. And now also I don't want to take Spot's thunder, but we're doing a deep dive guest host with the Unofficial QuickBooks Accountant podcast with Alicia Katz-Pollock as well. So new project there for me. Matthew?
And I am Matthew Fulton. I am the founder of Parkway Business Solutions, the one of the creators of QB Community Life Facebook group. Been doing a whole series with Fordley called Blueprints for Business. And truly my biggest thing is I'm a workflow nerd. I like working with app companies and helping them better understand how to use the API and helping other accountants figure out the best way to connect the dots. So it's an honor to be here as well. And I'm going to say go Philadelphia.
Yay. Yeah, I see people putting in the chat, go Chiefs, boo. Either way, history is going to be made. So a little bit about the QB Power Hour. It's every other Tuesday at noon Eastern. I have no idea what time it is where I'm at because I'm driving across country at the same time as we're trying to do the Power Hour. But it's noon Eastern. Our the Power Hour is now eligible for CPE credit. If you didn't catch Blake Oliver talking about that, we have a channel for the QB Power Hour on Earmark. So you can always click that link in the slides and be able to access the prior ones that are eligible for CPE. This one is not eligible for live CPE because of the way they work that out. Typically about 5 days after the live webinar, they'll post the quiz, and then you can take the quiz for the CPE credit. But if you just bookmark the channel, you can always just go and see when those new ones are posted and get your CPE credit.
I'd love to ask everybody, if you are collecting CPEs, do me a favor, in the chat, put a 1. If you're not, put a 2, please. Love to see who's utilizing the CPEs.
Awesome. And these are the 2 prior sessions that are already up there, the 1099 problems that we did with Nancy, as well as the sales tax limitations that we did with Avalara. So you can always check those out. A little bit of the housekeeping. If you do have specific questions about what we're chatting about here today, please put them in the Q&A so that way we can see them and we don't lose them as all of the 1s and 2s are are flying by in the chat. The chat is great for just general comments like "Go Chiefs" or "Go Eagles" or whatever you happen to be wanting to say in the chat. That's great there too. And then we also have the webinar archive links there, as well as the handouts, which should be posted.
Yep.
Whether you're watching
posted earlier, we can post it again here shortly.
I still have 4 monitors, so I don't know where those are are living, but they're out there. And we have if you're watching us on the in the Facebook group as we're simulcasting on YouTube and all that stuff, there's a QR code for the handouts there as well. And then we also have the QB Power Hour stores if you want to check out the QB Power Hour swag. So what's on the agenda today? So we're going to be breaking this into 2 major sections. We have Intuit / QuickBooks news. Spot attended the shareholder meeting that was just recently, and so we'll be unpacking some of the things that they talked about and speculating what that means for the accounting community. I do want to set that stage there. This is no insider information or anything like that. This is all public information, and we're just going to be pontificating as to what the meaning of all of that is. And then some of the in QuickBooks or Intuit news or topics. There was a combined UI email confusion that we want to talk about. And there's always this discussion about pricing increases that we want to talk about, which might go, might dovetail into that shareholder meeting. And then we have a Facebook group for the QB Power Hour that there's some common questions or some posts there that we want to unpack there as well. So first polling question, what version of QuickBooks do you support with your clients? And let me go ahead and launch that. And while you're answering that, let's go ahead and dive right into the shareholder recap. So Matthew, just let me know when you need me to advance.
So first off, I wanted to kind of clarify one part of this. Every time they do one of their quarterly reports or their annual meeting, these things are made available through their website to where you can go back about a week later and listen to the webcast, and you can even look at their different presentation. So with that, all the images that you'll be seeing here came straight from their presentation. So it's their information, publicly available information that we just felt to be appropriate to kind of share. So the links that you're seeing there will take you to that. So if you want to go forward one here, Dan. So the first thing I kind of we're gonna do some commentary a little bit afterwards. So I'll go through some of the information that I saw, and I tried to highlight the things that were most important to me on these slides. When you look at this strategy that Intuit talks about, I couldn't help but notice that this year the accountants was a smaller section down below. So the consumer, small business, mid-market, that's their main focus. And we're going to talk about that as we go to the next slide of where the money's kind of coming from on everything also. Interesting facts though, there are 87 million consumers on the Intuit platform. There's 10 million small and medium-sized businesses using it, and then 18 million US workers that are paid annually through QuickBooks Payroll. And if you download the slides, you'll see there's other details on that. But those were the three that I found the most interesting, of course. So
yeah, I remember them saying that like 1 out of every 6 employees, or some staggering number, is actually paid through QuickBooks Payroll, which is
pretty
unique,
crazy.
I think. Yeah.
So that means if you have 6 employees, only one of them. No. Okay. So we can go to the next one here. And so one of the big parts of the entire conversation had to do with their focus in artificial intelligence and using AI. What I mean by that is Sasan actually mentioned that back in 2018, Intuit took the focus, they decided to invest heavily into it and start to use it in everything they're doing. They're now seeing that they are internally using AI to help their own development. So they're saying that their development velocity, in other words, the speed they can get stuff out, has increased 8 times. And through that, it's created an their AI improvements has also improved 11% reduction in contact rates. So what I guess I'm trying to say there is, theoretically, through their AI-driven content answers, everything else, they've reduced the number of calls and human touch points they have to do by 11%. I found that to be pretty interesting, of course.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know what the Intuit values actually are now, but when I was there, one of their 10 values was originally think fast, move fast, and they ended up changing that to think smart, move fast, because you could do dumb things fast. So they did change that to think smart, move fast, and Sasan was very big on rapid iteration of things. So he's definitely a fast guy.
Yes, for sure. We can skip to the next one now here. And so through here, obviously being into tax season, the TurboTax Live and QuickBooks Live was a decent portion of their conversation. And the things I took away of importance there is the QuickBooks Live. They've seen a 3x increase in the number of customers using QuickBooks Live, and a 4x increase in the annual revenue per customer versus the rest of the QuickBooks Online base. So in other words, people that are using QuickBooks Live, it's actually generating a better annual revenue per customer, ARPC, than just somebody who's subscribed to QBO on its own. TurboTax Live has seen an 11% increase in customers and a 5x increase in revenue. Now, keep in mind, these are still somewhat newer, so having that multiplier like that's a little bit easier. 100 to 300 may be a multiple, but it's a lot harder to get that when you're at 3 million and then Xing it more and more and more.
Yeah, I don't know if they mentioned that, but are they actually profitable in these things?
They don't.
Which whether or not they show a profit, yeah, great for them to increase the revenue. But if that's actually a cost center for them as opposed to a profit center.
It's a good point, because I started listening to these back when Sasan first came into office. And even back then, they used to break out the different types of subscriptions. You could see what was QBO versus desktop, enterprise, and where the money was coming in. They don't do any of that breakout anymore. You can't see that stuff as easily at all. So we can move ahead to the next one as well.
That's Intuit Confidential.
Yeah. Another large portion of this, and we're going to dovetail pretty soon into the combined UI. It's the interconnectivity of their ecosystem. This is the big vision, the big goal. So their acquisition of Credit Karma, bringing people in. There was one question one of the people on the call asked was, are they ever going to make a replacement for Mint? And the answer was a whole bunch of word salad to basically come back and say, no, we're not. It's going to be Credit Karma's the piece. We're trying to serve this. But what they found is the number of people that are using Credit Karma who are actually having TurboTax now do their taxes as well has significantly increased. So these are the plays they're making, trying to give you the one-stop shop to do everything to get that annual ARPC up for every single person. We can go to the next one here. And then, so these are the other interesting ones. QuickBooks Online has gone up by 11% in the total customers. Their annual revenue per customer also was 11%. Workforce Solutions, basically their payroll stuff, 23% increase. Money Portfolio, so this is their payments, processing, everything else, 20% increase and a total payment volume of $124 billion. That I found very interesting. So that's the money that's flowing through and to do all this stuff, which is pretty powerful. And then MailChimp also had an 11% increase in revenue. And we can go to the next one here. QuickBooks Online Advanced, 28% increase in subscriptions, 36% increase in the ecosystem revenue. Now, so that's that annual revenue per customer. 36 in comparison to 11% with the QBO customers. So you're seeing more money. Obviously, it's more expensive, but they're making more money off Advanced that way. And their retention actually went up 2% to 84% with the people using Advanced. So people that get into it are sticking with it and actually liking it, it seems like.
They're not just getting it for the initial discount. They're actually using the features.
Exactly. Intuit, so the Enterprise Suite, they say estimated, right? Because it's just brand new, it's just coming out. They estimate it's going to be 20K annual revenue, which is about $1,600 per month per customer. I found that to be interesting as well. Because
yeah, that's the first time I've actually seen that number published. I knew there were some other things that I had seen where I had heard that number before, but this is the first time I've actually seen this number published. So, for all the people like wondering how much does Intuit Enterprise Suite cost, that's their estimation, right? So there's going to be more or less, and we'll talk a little bit about the difference between QuickBooks Enterprise and Intuit Enterprise a little later. But for those that are always wanting to know what's this going to cost me, that's what they're estimating. So before you just go blindly send a lead to the Intuit Enterprise Suite folks, just kind of give that estimation as food for thought.
So, and the question becomes, what all does that include? So, those are the key numbers that I really found from the information through the presentation and listening to them. But, Dan and I, we were talking earlier, kind of our own thoughts about the meeting and listening to it. As we talked about before, they've been very open about the fact they're going very AI centric. They're trying to make this platform where things are going to connect together because they envision the ability in the future that for a small business owner that's getting started with MailChimp, with QuickBooks Online, everything else, that AI will be able to do more and more and more stuff for them, such as creating a marketing campaign for them, send out the email to try to churn up more business. He did give an example, which I found funny, was he said, we even have the power to, you can take a handwritten note, turn that into an estimate automatically, have it turn into progress invoices, collect the money and everything all for you automatic. I'm like, you must have a better version than we have at this moment, but so I don't know. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this information, Dan?
Well, this is really, really great stuff as far as like things that, growth is always good, right? So like that's the stability, I think, and I think we're gonna kind of talk about some of these themes as to where does the accounting community fit into all of that? You noticed, or you pointed out the piece of the pie is a little bit less than what we've seen, and we talked about this a little earlier. Whereas it seems like the accounting community is more of a consumer as opposed to a partner. Now, that may not be their intention, but that certainly is something that is, I think, being felt by the accounting community at
Yeah.
large. And I tend to take a cautious approach when it comes to the actions that Intuit is taking. They're going to do what they're going to do, right? And as we talk about the Facebook group, Facebook and Meta is going to do the things that they're going to do, right? And sometimes we're just along for the ride when it comes to that, and it's whether or not it is a what's the polite way to say? I mean, whether or not it fits, right? It's whereas in the past, from a sales and marketing perspective, accountants and the ProAdvisor community was a sell through, type
Yeah.
of thing where make those people happy and they will be promoters. And whereas now it seems like the accounting community is a sell to, like here's the products that we're making available. If you want to participate with that, great, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Especially with all of the other things that they've been introducing that potentially step on a toe or two.
It's well said. Peter, just to answer your question, which he kind of was asking, do we know what the annual revenue was for QBO Advanced? They didn't talk about that, but they did say that it increased 36%, which doesn't tell us a whole bunch. We knew that there's an increase in the number of subscriptions and that it's now generating more revenue for them. And it is higher, of course, than QBO traditionally, but we don't know what the actual amount per year is that they're capturing at this time.
And considering year over year, they've had what is that, 17.5% increase in the cost, right? So of course they're going to have some interest. Some increase that's just the subscription cost, whether or not they lose
It's a great point.
lose subscribers or not.
One other thing they mentioned was in the meeting, you can go ahead and move on to the next part though, is Sasan brought up, made a comment about how the ecosystem, the small business owners, you jump in and they've got all these different apps that they're connecting. And he said they envision having a way to be able to do all that for them. I really question how that's going to work well. Having AI be able to be those connection points, because there's so many variations. And not to mention you have to deal with Intuit changing things all the time. So tags going away, because tags are going away. They're adding a custom field to all the different versions is their solution for it. One of them, even from the lowest one up, and higher ones where you already have 3, you'll now have 4, except for advanced, you'll stay at the 12. API is still only going to give you access to 3. So there's still variations there that's interesting. And then for the Intuit Enterprise Suite, this is our nuanced news things that I know. They will be creating additional functionality for Intuit Enterprise Suite, API-wise, that won't be available to other things in the future. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you participating in that call and sharing that with our community. It's really, I mean, this is kind of like the goalposts that they're setting up, or here's what we did, here's what we want to do, and then we can again speculate as to where everyone fits there. So moving on to this topic of the combined UI, they did announce this at QuickBooks, Intuit Connect last October, right? Again, yeah. I don't know what day it is. That this coming, this combined UI, which is essentially, going the wrong way. We have a screenshot here from the Firm of the Future article. Also, I put a blog on a blog article on the School of Bookkeeping site. But with regards to QuickBooks Online and MailChimp, this is finally, where after the acquisition of Mailchimp, this is where things get assimilated. And this is one of them, where you'll have this combined user interface with Mailchimp and QuickBooks Online, which, as you were talking, Matt, about, this is where Intuit is going to make a lot of strides with that integration between a business running their business and getting new business. I mean, when this actually becomes a thing, which I don't know that it's there just yet, but being able to track your own customers and create an outreach to continue that and nurture that customer relationship that you have with your customers. Mailchimp is going to be a great part of that, because they have their suite of services. I've kind of used it, but I haven't gotten like into the weeds. Would you say you're a power Mailchimp user, or is it more of?
So I've done a lot with Mailchimp independently, but I haven't used it much within the connectivity with QuickBooks Online. That was one of their statistics they mentioned, is they've seen a 22% increase in the number of people that are using Mailchimp and QuickBooks Online together. So people are starting to use it, but I haven't tried the interconnectivity piece of it the same way.
Yeah.
My worry about this, and I want to ask this to everybody in the chat, because I think we should start a poll right now. How long until we get a revert back to the basic look? Because my biggest concern right now is, where's my sidebar? How do I get to the stuff for that immediately? I'm having nightmares of the business view versus accountant view right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someone wasn't participating in that beta test. But as far as what has happened, or what happened, and the confusion that arises, because nothing says alert your accountant in January about a brand new user interface, right? So there was this email that went out about an upcoming test of this combined user interface, and that sent a lot of accountants into a tizzy. Because while they're trying to do their payroll forms and all the busy things that come at year end, let's just go ahead and change the way everything looks and clicks, right?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't as bad as it seemed, but it was certainly something that triggered a lot of people to panic a little bit, because the last thing you want to do when you're trying to do all these busy year-end things with where, if you rely on that sidebar, where the sidebar go in your navigation of inside of QuickBooks. So not all is lost, right? So
before you go any further, real quick, because we got a lot of people that are mentioning, and I agree, Right Tool. Everybody's like, use Right Tool for this. I trust into Mark and Hector that they're already thinking about this. Some of the things we don't know yet, is it going to be that all the URLs for the other aspects of like your journal entries, your bank feeds, if all of that stuff is still the same, and if all of those pages remain looking the same, Right Tool will have no challenge. But if it's a situation they're moving where buttons are, now they're going to have to recode things to be able to find the right places to make certain features and functions work. I trust the team will do it, but they may have some extra work in front of them. Right.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't go all in and change, put things in a subdomain. Yeah. QBOMP.intuit.com or something like that. That will break all of all the hard work that they did. But as Kim Emspa correctly stated, and in the Firm of the Future article, this will only affect new users. So your existing clients should not be offered this combined UI. We've heard this before. It should not affect it should not affect anyone who's connected to an account. But past doesn't necessarily dictate the future, but they can certainly, that is their goal. Of course, mistakes happen, but if you're connected to an accountant, you should not be offered this combined UI because that would cause angst. And in the event that you do get a client that did opt into this, you can opt out of the test by going to the gear, and then there should be a little a button there in the lower right to leave the early access program while accountants and bookkeepers are trying to do 1099s and process your payroll forms with a brand new user interface on top of all that. So a couple links in there. Yeah.
What's going to happen though if you get this brand new company gets QuickBooks Online, has this new look, and then they come to you? Oops, there we go. And they come to you and add you on as an accountant. What happens then is going to be the question, because the importance of that question is that's going to tell you a lot about what they're doing UI or not on how to connect these pieces. So I'm wondering what that's going to look like.
Yeah, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the QuickBooks Enterprise pricing updates as of February 1st, which was 3 days ago. They are going to increase the price of, this is QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise, has nothing to do with Intuit Enterprise Suite because, well, we don't know what the price of Intuit Enterprise Suite is, so how would we know it's going to increase? But Intuit, Enterprise Silver, Gold, and Platinum. There's 4, precious metals and a jewel. Well, 3 precious metals and a jewel. So Silver, Gold, and Platinum, they get a 15% bump, which is a significant price increase for seats 1 through 5, and that's total, right? So if they have a total seat, multi-user access, single or multi, up to 5, it would be a 15% increase. If they are 6 and above, and it's not split out, right? So it's, if they have a 6-user license, it's a 20% increase for all seats, right? So it's not just
not
those
tiered,
first
is what
5.
you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And then so 20% increase for silver, gold, and platinum, diamond, and white gold. Hey, we've got another we've got another one in there. It's the flat 15% increase. And then legacy hosting, meaning that if you had RightWorks cloud access, there will be a 15% rise for all plans, whether they're a la carte or bundle. And important to note that that's effective on the annual renewal. So even if you're paying monthly, that increase won't go into place until your anniversary of the annual subscription. So you're not paying, you're paying monthly, but it's an annual subscription. So whenever you activated your enterprise license, that dictates the birthday or the anniversary of that subscription. So you won't see that increase until that annual renewal. But wait, there's more. So there was an article that's out there about there's changes to the per employee multi-company files terms and conditions. So this is one of those things that your terms and conditions, the terms and conditions have changed, so you need to acknowledge them, and you log into CAMPS, your customer account management portal system. I think that's what CAMPS actually stands for.
I think they forgot an R in there.
Yeah. Ramps?
Yeah, because it's a pain. Trust me. Anyways, keep going.
But you have to accept the terms. Now, there's no change yet, but you have to accept the terms. And if there is a change to the pricing structure regarding a per employee or multi-company files, there will be a 30-day notice when that happens. Because right now, Enterprise Gold and Platinum includes the enhanced payroll, currently at no per employee or per direct deposit. There's no additional fees for running payroll inside of Gold and Platinum. Diamond includes assisted, so there is, some kind of payroll, charge for doing that. And then, of course, desktop, currently allows for any number of company files to be created as long as you have the hard drive space for it. So there's no change, but the only change is the change to the terms and conditions. So they're setting the stage for something to change, but we don't know the specifics about what that is, which is interesting in the Intuit article. If you actually click the link there, it takes you out to learn about them, but it doesn't tell you what they are, which is kind of ironic, I guess is the best way to put it.
Now, one of the other changes I thought that I heard was coming up soon, especially for accountant users of enterprise plans, is the grandfather license. What is it, for being able to do 50 different companies for payroll under like your one bulk group? I heard, isn't that going away?
The enhanced payroll for accountants, you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That has since probably for a couple years now has not been able to be sold for new subscriptions, right? So if you already have the enhanced payroll for accountants, where you can do 50 EINs, which has its own pricing structure.
Yeah.
And there is a per employee charge for that that is already in place. That is you can't buy it if you wanted to, but you can keep it if you have it, right? So that's at least that's the idea. If it lapses, like if the billing lapses and it goes past the grace period, the chances of reinstating that, I think there's two chances: slim and fat, which ironically the opposites mean the same thing. When it comes to that. Now, Sarah on Facebook or YouTube actually mentioned, and we'll actually get to this, Sarah, about are these increases there to push them to the new QB enterprise? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But
Intuit
clearly,
enterprise, you mean? But yes.
Yeah, Intuit enterprise. Well, she said QB enterprise. So I was just reading her question, but it's clearly this is the lever of uncomfortability that Intuit can press for those people considering, is this now the time to move to QuickBooks Online, right? So this is where those things things to consider is, this causes a reflection, right? Is it worth it? I've seen many people in QuickBooks Enterprise that don't need to be there, right? Like they're not using all of the functionality, whether I was, on the Intuit side of things or lately. The one great thing about Enterprise is it's all encompassing. You can do a lot of things in one place, and that's about the only thing that Intuit Enterprise Suite and QuickBooks Enterprise share in common, is that yes, it's an ecosystem where you can do your payroll, you can do your inventory management, you can do that sort of thing. I would not say do your inventory management in Intuit Enterprise Suite, but that is it's designed to be one-stop shop type of thing for those things, right? So, and then prior increases historically they're 5%. So clearly a larger increase like this is a they're turning the screw a little bit harder to make you to really have that pondering. And then the other things that have happened as well, they've removed the ProAdvisor lifetime discount, and any changes to the license is seen as a new subscription. So if you add a user, if you change a metal, going from silver to gold or something like that. That is that event is considered to be a new subscription. So if they had a lifetime discount of the ProAdvisor referral in the past, they would end up losing it. Now they would get, the introductory, typically the first year discount, but then of course after that it goes to MSRP, which, as we have just said, is now significantly increasing, right? So this is one of the things that I want to talk about, where Intuit Enterprise Suite is not QuickBooks Enterprise Solutions, which I think that's what the S is, right? So Intuit Enterprise Suite is still going to be based on QBO, right? So whatever the feature set of the QuickBooks Online subscription, that is going to be the base feature set that they're going to have inside of Intuit Enterprise Suite. Now, on top of that, layered on top of that, is this idea of multiple entity, and then having significant amount of users. You can have up to 500 users, and then, as we had just kind of talked about, there's no external pricing. Like you can't go to a website and say, how much is this going to cost me, which is pretty standard, I think,
standard
for all
for enterprise plans out there nowadays.
I just wish they wouldn't have used the word enterprise, right? Because that's where it gets very confusing between the two. When you say, well, they already have a program called QuickBooks Enterprise, Intuit Enterprise must be the same thing. So I'll get the exact same functionality that I have in desktop in the Intuit Enterprise Suite, and then to add this other confusion, right? Inside of Enterprise, they're constantly advertising cloud access, right? Which is not either of these things. This is merely taking QuickBooks Enterprise, the desktop product, and putting it in a cloud hosting environment, which then allows you to have the features functionality of QuickBooks Enterprise in an anywhere access available environment. But you have the same challenges that you have with a desktop environment. You have to have your other things that interface with QuickBooks in that cloud environment as well, whether you've got it on your local machine, like your Excel,
they should be in the cloud or that server, so they actually connect correctly if you've got the third-party apps.
All of your integrated apps, if you have those, they need to be supported in there, which then could potentially change your cloud access that you have to have, right? So the cloud access isn't always the best answer, but it typically is the better as far as the learning experience, right? Like, I don't have to learn something brand new, like going from QuickBooks Enterprise to Intuit Enterprise, or even just QuickBooks Online, right? So my bottom line here is that it's a good fit for companies who are already in QuickBooks Online that are outgrowing what QuickBooks Online is able to do for them, right? If they have multiple entities and they have multiple subscriptions in QuickBooks Online, and they want to, be able to do intercompany transfers and have this multi-dimensional reporting already in there, then that might be a good segue, right? Like it's not such a drastic thing as taking we've got 5 QuickBooks Enterprise files that we're running, and we're going to move them into QuickBooks Online and into Intuit Enterprise Suite. That is a pretty drastic change.
So I've been working with a company where I was just helping them migrate 12 different company files to QuickBooks Online. And this is an example where I think for them, the Enterprise Suite would actually end up being a good value for them. But I still don't understand for the pricing when you're talking about it. So that calculation, that's $1,600 per month. Is that going to be per company file, or is that going to be, because they'd lose money at that point if it was for all of them, right?
No, that would be, and that's the estimate, that's the average, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So if they've got 15 entities, I doubt it's going to be $1,500 a month, right? So
would you, so feature set based on, actually there's one of the things I was going to ask. Feature set is based on QBO subscription levels. So that means you'd have your Enterprise Suite. You could have some that are on Plus, some on Advanced within that, and that's going to be an extra part of it.
Right.
Prediction of a challenge they're going to have. I already know people that have been on advanced for some time with decent sized company files, and they're slowing down and bogging down because of the amount of data that's there. So what I'm expecting, I'm hoping they don't have this problem, but I won't be surprised, is they're going to have ways to basically spin up almost like individual servers for these enterprise suite customers to make sure they have enough bandwidth to handle all of this if you're doing multi-entity type work. I think that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the Intuit
Cost.
announcement with Amazon, right? So maybe they get a a dedicated Amazon AWS servers or something like that for just
That would make
the
sense.
so who knows, right? Again, this is all speculation. We are not
Yeah. Yes.
in the know here as their webinar series subscribe. All right, so let's throw out the next polling question. Do you have clients that are using Enterprise that are underutilizing those features, or not any? All right. So while you're answering that, let's continue on because we are quarter hour from the power hour, top of the hour. So let's talk a little bit about the Facebook group and those types of things. Hector and Michelle started this QB Power Users Facebook group. I think about 10, maybe 2015. I think that's when they started this group. As of today, it's close to or a little over 17,400 members strong. One of the things that I really love about that Facebook group is how active and engaged people are. It's really a testament. That's the word I was stuck on there. Testament of people helping people, and
Amen.
really the whole idea of how the community comes together to help each other. There is an Intuit presence in there, but it's not designed to circumvent the getting help directly from or reaching out to Intuit through the Facebook group. Because it certainly is not scalable that way. We do have some people that were there. Allison was one of them. She's no longer even with Intuit anymore. But seeing people get tagged, that certainly wasn't the whole idea of the Facebook group. But we love to have give as much as you take, right? So that's and your Facebook group as well. QB Community Live, we do have some overlap of users in there.
It's the same kind of a concept, right? And I want to go back real quickly because I think this part's important when you're saying the Intuit presence. As an admin of a group like these, we really consider who to let in or not, especially when it comes to any kind of a vendor of any sort. But it's having certain people and having those relationships that allow us the ability to reach out and get certain people help when there's something deeper that we can't help you with. So we try to make sure that it's always done appropriately.
Right.
There have been many times I've reached out to people, the different vendors of different companies, and be like, hey, I don't like the way you're doing this or that. Please don't do it. This isn't supposed to ever be salesy. So we utilize that. And the most important thing, Dan, I think you'd agree, is with all the groups, always be polite, be helpful to each other, no negative stuff. Yeah. If you get grumpy pants at people, you're out in my group personally. But we're here to help each other and build each other up.
Yeah, and it's it's a labor of love for those that are administrating or moderating these Facebook groups, because we don't want to get into these kind of sidebar conversations, but by and large the Facebook group itself has been very self-policed, which is been great, a great experience, and we've always been trying to think of a way to people helping people, because this is, people helping each other without any monetary tie, right? So always something that I've been thinking of is like when there is a great answer, or maybe there's a suggestion where people could donate, because I would love to see and quantify how well we're helping not just our community, but the world, right? Being able to make a charitable donation based off of what you felt the information was worthwhile. So that's just been something that I've always been wanting to do, but again, that's a lot of things to consider, right? Did you add this? No, I added this. Okay. So there's some drawbacks of Facebook, right? You know, you're subject to Facebook changes, community rules. I got a notification the other day that said we removed one of your posts. It wasn't my post; it was somebody else, but it could not even show me the post to tell me what was removed. But it told me why it was removed, but I couldn't confirm or deny. Right? So that's, you know, they're going to make their changes based off of that. Searching in a Facebook group is a horrible experience.
I've always wished we could have a forum style where like the same question, like you can see them like categorized certain ways, would be lovely.
Yeah. And then there's the occasional people that sneak in there that want to advertise or you know, not be there to give. You know, they want to take. There's some bad actors that are in there, so it's a, you know, it's a challenge, right? Sometimes. And then another thing is that we can't necessarily categorize the group, right? Like, if you have payments questions, or if you have payroll questions, or Intuit Enterprise Suite versus QuickBooks Enterprise Solutions, right? You know, we had tried. I think Hector and I were trying to, you know, make tagging you know, mandatory. Well, then that just kind of takes away from, you know, just being able to post and those types of things. But these are some of the things that we kind of the double-edged sword of having a Facebook group. Yeah. So, you know, we just wanted to. Oh, I've been having the poll question. Never ended the poll. So just curious, are you part of the Facebook group? And if you are, would you rather have this community be on a different platform? Because then that becomes, well, okay, well, now I got to check Facebook and this other application, wherever that community might be. And well, what about Matt's group and those types of things? So I'm just kind of curious.
It becomes difficult. I mean, I've looked at multiple different ways trying to create some external group somewhere else, but like you just said, now you're asking people to go join something else somewhere else to be checking for solutions, and there's already so many social media platforms. It's like, how do you choose which one to be on and provide people the best information? So we've got a couple questions just while you're running that real quick. So
Sure.
Peter is asking for a very fast summarization. Hard to do a summarization between Advanced versus Enterprise Suite because I haven't played with it a whole bunch yet.
Yeah.
The key things I'm understanding so far is Enterprise Suite. Of course, you're going to have the ability to do that multi-entity back and forth. So in other words, you can have multiple QBO Advanced company files, and you would have the ability to do like journal entries that are transferring back and forth between companies, making things easier. They're also with down the road, Enterprise Suite's going to have a higher set of features and functions and deeper integrations to third-party apps. Those deep integrations are expected to specifically be a part of Enterprise Suite specifically. The number of users and some other aspects, I think that's the fastest summarization I can kind of give.
Yeah, and I've got a link in the slides and the handouts and on the landing page about a blog I wrote where it's a kind of like a first look. Has a little bit of snark to it, but because anytime that they bring something new to the table, it's a lot of times it's a lot of fanfare. And now we've seen that this is a huge pricing increase potentially. And I think Anna put in the chat, she got a quote and it was $2,700 per entity, regardless of the underlying flavor underneath that. So even if they did downgrade, they wouldn't be saving anything by mixing and matching. So that's an interesting thing. Now that doesn't mean that that's the price, right? So that's just a quote that they got, right? Which when you are going through this whole sales process for Intuit Enterprise Suite, there's a negotiation part, right? Which is a lot of back and forth, and they'll be able to have some wiggle room depending on the suite part of the enterprise suite, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you doing payroll? How many employees are you doing payroll for? Are you doing payments and the QuickBooks bill pay, right? So all of those ancillary or connected services, that's going to have a revenue tied to them. And as you pointed out before, there was a significant amount of QuickBooks payments that money collected, right? So that's all part of the bottom line, right? So we do have a couple posts that we want to talk about here. This one I brought up because this is a very simple question of how do I run an AR by class in QuickBooks Online? So this was one of those things where it's the functionality of the class, kind of dictates, the blockage in the question, right? So classes is something that is assigned at the line item, right? It's the target of the transaction, right? So that is not something that you can necessarily have a class on the AR side of things, right? So if you're running like an AR report, the source or the even if you said, right, I only want to assign one class per transaction, and you put it in the header at the top with the class, that still only assigns the class on the line item details, even of that invoice, right? So it does not do the source of the transaction, with the exception of a journal entry. That's the only kind of transaction where you can assign a class on the source of the transaction. But this is where QuickBooks Online differs a little bit in desktop, where there's a balance sheet by class inside of desktop, where it actually does the proration of each transaction to be able to give you that balance sheet by class, taking that line item and proportionately spreading it across the other balance sheet items that can't be classified, right? Now in QuickBooks Online, you've got a location, and location is the source. So easiest answer to this person's question is do everything by location, and then you'll be able to run your AR by location, even if you use location and class as a duplicate list, right? So
which requires QuickBooks Online Plus or Advanced to do locations and classes, just as a quick reminder.
Good call out there. All right. This was an interesting scenario where QuickBooks Online payroll filings, they were doing $0 payroll forms because they had inadvertently turned on payroll inside of QuickBooks Online Accountant, right? And I had seen this happen a couple other times before. They were doing the payroll certification and entered in some payroll information inside of QuickBooks Online Accountant, and which turned on payroll, but they weren't actually running their payroll inside of QBOA. And what happened is that, after they did their certification, lo and behold, after that, they got a rejection notice from their payroll provider, because Intuit beat them to the punch and actually submitted the 941 or the 940 forms for them with nothing, right? Because there was no payroll data inside of QBOA. But I guess that's because it was real easy to submit that. It decided to it beat the ADP, or in this case it was Gusto, to the punch. So they got a rejection notice to be able to do that. So it's one thing that you want to make sure that when you're doing firm billing, this is one of the explanations why payroll could get turned on. If you're doing firm billing, where you're doing the management of the subscription, whether it's QuickBooks Online or payroll, there is a parent-child relationship that happens, and your payroll actually gets turned on, even though you're not even running payroll. As long as you don't enter in your EIN into the service,
You'd be
then
fine because they don't have anything to report to, basically.
Right. But if you inadvertently turn it on, you can go into the settings and then turn off the automatic taxes and forms so that the $0 returns are not going to interfere with your real returns. And there's an article in there as well as how do you turn on or off the form filing. This was a really cool post, and I wanted to pull this up and spotlight it. And I'm gonna say her name wrong.
Ufoma. She's super smart.
She's a great person. Great to have conversations with at the conferences. This is a really great example of actionable feedback for Intuit. And she's talking about the modern reports and explaining that in the modern reports there's like 3 account filters. Which is kind of weird to go in and see that, to take a look at the account. She's using account and account details. And when she tried to filter for both of them, she ended up getting a blank report. But as she pointed out there, in the classic view, it worked fine. So this is one of those things that, Intuit needs to know these things, because the way that the modern reports and the report filters tend to work is it's one of those things in the modern view that some of those filters are almost like 3-dimensional, right? And when you do search for and filter for some of them, it may be looking at the wrong side of the transaction, which in results into that poor experience, right? But the sharing of the report this was a great feedback too. There's no share with my firm, right? Where I just want to share the firm. Now, I don't know if they actually changed that just yet. Do you know, Matthew?
I've seen where you could build it in there, but it is hard to get to some of the stuff. And I probably should go to the post and try to answer. But one of the things I've noticed from the classic view reports to the modern view reports, if you're using QuickBooks Online Advanced, they're badass. It's amazing what you can do because you can get into deeper detail, the transaction line detail, and you can get information from that and make very complex reports. But if you're not using Advanced, the modern view does have quite a few challenges. Yeah. And they had promised that before they were going to switch everything over, they were going to make sure all the other customized classic view ones would work going over. So I would suggest directly reaching out to support and getting it pushed to the right person on it.
And when you're in your own. And when you're in the modern view, put the feedback
yes.
And as actionable as you can. Like this is a great example of being able to provide the actionable feedback, but do that in the section that if there is a provide feedback option on the screen that you're on, do that in there, because that typically tends to go to the product managers or people who are really curious about the feedback of that particular feature. So I know modern reports will have that. All right, so let's throw up the last poll question. We're coming in for a landing. We're a little bit over our time of the Power Hour. Appreciate you sticking around, and if you got to go, you got to go. I understand that, but was this information usual? Exactly. Power Hour and then some. Matthew, any closing thoughts here?
Boy, I'm glad. Part of me is glad I didn't see that post earlier, because my brain's spinning on the reports and what you can do with it. I like those. These are the kind of challenges I always love, but they are rabbit holes to dive into and just get lost at times. So
somebody was saying on YouTube, the post by that we just showed up there is so valuable. She always has the best, most thorough feedback. I hope they listen to her.
Was amazing. She's like, she's on another level with her. She dives in so deep and finds these things, and that's a true talent. Some people would complain about that, but it's like that's the nuanced stuff that we need to understand, how things will or will not work, because it's also the difference from desktop and enterprise desktop version to an online is if you're used to doing it a certain way, how are we going to do it in the online environment if we can't even get the custom fields, dang it.
Yeah.
You saw what I
Always
did there.
stuck on that custom field, man. All right.
My
We
prediction is
appreciate
it'll be
you.
enterprise.
Yeah. So next time on the QB Power Hour, we are going to have Mike Milon joining us, who will be talking about he was showing me this new feature that he has in his application called a client conversation starter. So as we're trying to have these valuable client conversations, a lot of us don't know what to say or how to start that conversation. And this is kind of like a guided resource. So look forward to having him on in a couple weeks. And
He's
hopefully,
hilarious, guys. You don't want to miss it. I'm telling you, he's super funny. Great. Yeah.
He's also a Chiefs fan, so hopefully I'll be able to rub in the Eagles' victory next time when we see him on the next Power Hour. We appreciate you joining us here today, and we'll see you next time on the Power Hour. Thank you again. I can't stop it. Where's the end? There it is.